for your time this evening. With your permission, requesting the console to go live, please.
Yes, so we are going live in next 10 seconds.
We are live, sir.
Thank you. Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Textile, Sh Piyush Goyal ji, बहुत abhinandan and welcome to our session this evening. Thank you for your time. I'm joined with Vineet Agarwal, the President. I also have with me Sumant Sinha, who's the Senior Vice President, and Ajay Singh, who is the Vice President of ASSOCHAM. Thank you, all of you. Other than that, I have past President Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani and other very distinguished speakers and delegates who joined this session. I would also like to welcome the other members of ASSOCHAM, the members of media, ladies and gentlemen. We are truly honored with your presence, sir. We are all today at the session, the Great Reset, reinforcing the India's global positioning. As you are aware, sir, ASSOCHAM has aligned itself with the growth agenda of the government. And hence this year's annual session and the plan for going forward next year is on the central theme of Bharat at 100, which is envisioning a globally competitive future. Amongst the pandemic, the government gave this call of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, which really enthused the Indian industry, and a lot has been done to ensure that we build this capacity and capability within this country. And a lot of policy initiatives the government has taken, and I'll talk about them in just a minute. The next phase of growth will require a differentiated focus on economic and social development. And Honorable Prime Minister, with his clarion call on Atmanirbhar Bharat, has also said that the blueprint for the next 100 years of independence will be based on prosperity, good governance, discipline, to build an ideal India with a significant global presence. The clear one example that I take, there are so many examples of the measures that the government has taken, is the PLI scheme, which is kind of the cornerstone. And this has kind of helped India achieve, and as we say, the benefits of this are going to be seen in the next few years, that we will be building capacity in almost all the sectors that we invested this money in. Apart from this, I would also like to congratulate the government on achieving this target of 1.78 billion vaccines that have been done. So this is not only that we have vaccinated the Indians that are here, but we also supply to the world. And this would open a huge opportunity for India to export vaccines. The overall exports from India under your watch and guard has been growing, and the tough target of $400 billion when was taken, you've made it look so easy. And today we are sitting at a number that it looks that we're going to not only meet but exceed. When we look at the internal basket of that order, I think the growth in the agri-export that has also taken place and the growth that you have shown is commendable. And this clearly leads into the impact that it can bring about in the rural economy. I think, sir, that's where India lives, and if this impact grows, the exports and the business growing in that area would be a long thing to do. Sir, the way Operation Ganga has been run through and the Ukraine-Russia crisis, I think not only about getting Indians out of that place, but what Indian government has also displayed as an underlying message is that we are deeply committed to a cause, and we stand by the thing that we talk about. So it is all about the vision of Bharat at 100, the new renewed focus on high quality, building scale, and most important is the reliability of the partner. I think with the last word that I would like to say before I get Viniji online is the commendable work that you have done to get these partners and regions together. And we are talking about the FTA so that we have access to larger markets, and particularly the speed and time in which CEPA has been achieved is commendable. And thank you so much once again for this evening, joining us this evening, and we look forward to an insightful discussion, your views. Obviously, I'll get people to speak before, and then we look forward to hearing from you. Over to you, Viniji. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Honorable Minister of Commerce, Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Textiles, Sh Piyush Goyal ji, Sumant Sinha, Ajay Singh, and Mr. Deepak Sood, and all the other industry members who have joined us today. Sir, we are honored to have you today at the session, The Great Reset, Reinforcing India's Global Positioning. ASSOCHAM, as Deepak just mentioned, is celebrating its annual session under the central theme of Bharat at 100, envisioning a globally competitive future. Sir, you've always been very supportive of us at ASSOCHAM with your continuous engagement. Your passion is infectious, And we've learned a lot from many of the many marathon meetings with you, be it at the regular industry interactions or at the National Startup Council, or when you were just coordinating industry response to various cyclones. Your immediate action and response is quite legendary. I recollect our last interaction in January when you implored industry and businesses to increase the quality of dialogue and share proactive and critical feedback wherever needed on policy and government initiatives. For us, that is a real game changer when government is not only willing to listen, but also views business as a force of change for the betterment of society. Even during this current Ukraine-Russia conflict, the speed of action to evacuate Indian nationals has been really, really heartening. In alignment of our Honorable Prime Minister's vision of $5 trillion economy and a nation that is at the forefront of global consciousness and action, we are ready to firmly establish our position on the world stage. This great reset has happened with the strong and decisive actions taken by our government, from handling COVID and vaccine distributions to the numerous long-term measures to not just improve the ease of doing business, but also ease of living. In my 25 years of experience, I have never been more surprised with every new initiative being bolder than the other. From the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the PLI schemes, the National Infrastructure Pipeline, dovetail with the PM Gati Shakti multimodal initiative and the single window portal, and the National Monetization Plan, and many others have firmly cemented our country's prospects as a leading economy of the world. Indian businesses have greater confidence on not just the Indian market, but also how they can serve the global markets. Global investors find India at the top of their investment thesis. We are becoming more and more part of global supply chains. This is the opportune time to seize the day and change our orbit. Sir, as it is said in the Mahabharata, Yato dharmas tato jaya. Where there is dharma, there is victory. One of the most impressive outcomes of all these initiatives, sir, has been the spectacular increase in exports, where we will surpass USD $400 billion this financial year. In every meeting, you have implored us to consider even more to boost exports to US $2 trillion, of which $1 trillion will come from merchandise and $1 trillion from service exports. With efforts made in the recent times to strengthen trade ties with our partners through FTAs and enhance the ambit of RoadTep, reduce logistics costs, and digitizing the supply chain, this goal is surely achievable. The current crisis, sir, as we are in, has immense ramifications, and we are confident that the government will be proactive and for its response and position. Sir, as part of this great reset, we at ASSOCHAM are committed to enforce India's position in the world. We assure you of our dedicated participation in nation building, as we have been doing for the last 100 years. This is our dharma, and sir, thank you again for your presence today.
Thank you, Vinitji. I think the goal of the target of exports with the Honorable Minister is set. I'm sure we'll all work together and make it happen. Not only happen, we'll work together to ensure the spread is better and the volume is certainly better. Thank you very much for that. May I now ask Sumant to please take over and share his thoughts, please. Thank you, Sumant. Sumant, you're on mute, please. If you can unmute yourself, please. Okay, you're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, Honorable Minister. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to listen to your words as well. Also, good evening to all my fellow colleagues from ASSOCHAM and the industry. So I think the target that you set of $400 billion certainly, I think, was very galvanizing. And the remarkable thing is that you are going to be able to achieve the target. So I think that's really phenomenal. And now, of course, you set an even bigger target. And I think that's going to be able to focus minds even more clearly, because I think just in line with the government's way of functioning, of setting really an ambitious target and then going ahead and doing whatever is required to be done to make it come true, I think that is really what we are witnessing in this sector as well. Let me talk a little bit about our sector, which is the one that you had, in fact, in some ways given a start to and given a leg up to. Which is, of course, the whole sector, the whole renewable energy sector. And within this, what's happened is that in solar particularly, the playbook that we started with, which was to bring down import tariffs and bring down the GST and domestic taxes and create a very big market. And then after the market was created, essentially imposing duties and thereby also creating enough of a impact for domestic players to then come in along with the PLI. And I think that is why in the solar PLI scheme, we've seen almost 50 gigawatts of applications come in, which is a remarkable success. Because I think what that will do is it will create a domestic industry, which is going to then allow us to not rival China, but certainly emerge as an alternative supplier of choice for global demand. And there are, in my experience, at least in talking to a number of buyers of green energy equipment, everybody is looking for an option to China. And so India actually has this great opportunity to emerge as that alternative based on our large domestic market and based on all the useful and important initiatives that the government is taking up. Now, in solar manufacturing, of course, the PLI scheme needs to come in quickly. My one request would be that, in solar, for example, there are 4 parts of the value chain, as you know, from polysilicon onwards, wafers, cells, and then modules. Today, we have a customs duty that has been imposed on cells and modules, but not on wafers and polysilicon. The PLI scheme actually rewards people going up to polysilicon. So it'll be good for the government to come out with a point of view as to what the overall long-term plan is going to be for duties on this entire value chain. Is it going to be limited to cells and modules, or will it be going further backwards? I think that kind of visibility, if that can be given to all of us in the industry, then we can actually plan our respective strategies for procurement of equipment or manufacturing of equipment in a much better manner. The same thing actually is applicable also for other parts of the green energy ecosystem. For example, batteries, and now increasingly electrolyzers for green hydrogen. And we all know that that green hydrogen is in some ways the next big opportunity now in the green energy economy. And so that is, of course, having the green hydrogen policy that MNRE just announced recently is very good. But I think at the same time, we also need mandates now to come in for the supply creation, for the demand creation of green hydrogen, in the sense of asking users of green hydrogen to essentially start adopting green hydrogen. Once that happens and the market develops there as well, then again, there'll be a lot of people who want to invest in the electrolyzer manufacturing side and also in the battery side. So I think the same playbook that we had in solar can in some ways be replicated in the other aspects of the green energy ecosystem. And as I said earlier, allow India to then emerge as a very credible second option to China in a lot of these areas. And also, of course, make sure that we become Atmanirbhar in terms of meeting all of our power needs in-house, whether they are in the area of power or whether they're in the area of the other energy baskets, such as fuel cells and green hydrogen. So I think there's a very big opportunity here. And I think if the government can just plan a little bit into the future and give all of us that extra visibility, I think that would be quite useful. Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you very much, Suman. May I now request Ajay with his thoughts. Thank you very much for flying in the students from various countries. This is a great service that you as an organization is personally running through. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Deepak, and a very warm welcome to my friend and Honorable Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal. Unlike many of you, I've had the distinct honor and pleasure to work closely with Mr. Goyal. And I can say to all of you that I've never seen a human being work as hard as he does. It's really, you're left awestruck when you see him work. And I worked with him during the election campaign of 2014. This minister just never sleeps. I don't think he knows the meaning of sleep. And you always felt guilty about going to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning when you were working with him. So incredible minister. The kind of ministers that I wish we had more of in this country. Setting ambitious targets is, I think, something that we all learn from him, from the Honorable Prime Minister. And all I can say is that as a body, ASSOCHAM will firmly stand by this government and try and align, we will try and align ourselves with the government's objectives and try and support them in every way that we can. Mr. Minister, we are relatively small, but what we lack in size, we will make up in our enthusiasm. And your goal of setting a 5 trillion economy, and I know it's not going to stop there. Once we achieve 5 trillion, you will probably have some other crazier goal in mind. So we are there, standing by you, supporting you, assisting in any way that we possibly can, and really look forward to working with you over the next few years. We, as an industry, of course, aviation is in deep trouble right now with the oil at $130, and God knows where it's going to stop. Nevertheless, we are working on national objectives, of ensuring connectivity to small cities. During COVID, we tried to get back people from different parts of the world. We tried to carry vaccination to different parts of our country. Tried to get equipment from different parts of the world when it was required. I remember we actually even flew one plane with just one PPE suit because the government wanted it replicated in Coimbatore. So we carried it all the way from China and took it to Coimbatore, and the only passenger on that flight was that suit. So, right now, Operation Ganga, which was, of course, amazing and really remarkable what the government did. So all of us as airlines have tried to play a role. We will need some temporary assistance, and we will request for that with the oil prices being where they are. We will request a temporary reduction in taxes till such time that this crisis blows over. But in every way, the aviation industry, the maintenance and repair industry, the logistics industry, all of us stand by your goal of creating a 5 trillion economy, and we look forward to contributing to that. So thank you very much for your presence here, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. May I now request Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani to share his thoughts, please?
A very good evening to each and every one of you. Honorable Mr. Piyush Goyal, it's such a pleasure to be in connection with you again. It's been a fantastic journey that I've seen you grow, and what a fantastic job you're doing. I concur with immediately with what Ajay Singh just mentioned about the fantastic work that is going on with the Honorable Prime Minister and there, and not only in your department, the PMAY scheme, which we have had a close contact with, also has done remarkably well, and the other schemes that are there with the government. I want to only flag off 2 points. Point number one being the problem of oil and the prices which Ajay mentioned. It's going to be a disaster if we don't really look at some sort of temporary relief. It doesn't matter, you don't have to carry this relief for a long period of time, but a country may go into a recessionary mode, and that is something which we should try and avoid at this point of time. So my first request would be a temporary relief, not only to aviation, but the entire sector of the economy, because fuel prices going up would create a downstream inflationary trend, which you will not be able to then pick up the economy. So that's point number one. Point number two, sir, is the putting up of data centers. The finance minister mentioned in the bill that she's given infrastructure status to data centers. Unfortunately, that was not followed up with any tax relief in relating to infrastructure of a thing. And with the data localization, which the Honorable Prime Minister desires, I think something needs to be given for that. The PLI scheme would not be applicable because that is on the manufacturing side. But this side is equally important, and I think we really need to look at that part. These are two things which I think immediately need to be taken up. And if these are taken up in the short run, these are going to be long-term benefits which we are talking about. And others have already mentioned other things, so I'm not going to repeat for the sake of saving time. But it's always a pleasure to be with you and flag off the issues and get your response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I now request Sohail to come in with his thoughts? Sohail, over to you.
Thank you, Deepak. Honorable Minister, your enthusiasm is infectious. This is the third time I've had an opportunity to interact with you in the last month or so, and it truly inspires us to come out with solutions. I am going to just talk about the geopolitical realignments and the opportunities for India as a trading and manufacturing hub. The golden age of multilateralism is clearly wound down. The WTO has lost its relevance over the last few years. Trade is shifting to trade between like-minded countries, and we are seeing that even regionalism, other than EU, the new NAFTA, and ASEAN, there is not much regionalism left in the world. The ambitious RCEP is also coming down to its knees. The like-minded nations are coming together, and India's SEPA, which you helmed so ably, is a sign of that. Of course, the Quad 4 alliance also will lead to trade, which is all a sign of the new trading order in the world. Even now, with the Ukraine situation, people are walking away from Russia, and the geopolitical dynamics have changed so rapidly that India has a chance to play and claim its rightful place in the global trade. Of course, we have already reacted in our way to China, and we have pushed a huge Make in India initiative. India is, of course, a large consumption market. We have seen that with companies like Apple increasing sales year on year. It's no longer the sort of poor market that it was previously made out to be. Government policies such as the semiconductor policy, the production-linked incentives, the RoadTap scheme have gone a long way in making India a manufacturing hub, and we continue to seek government intervention to keep those programs running and being adapted to meet the time. India needs to become a replacement for China in the global market for manufacturing. Every country is looking for the China plus one supply chain, and India needs to be present on that table. What is more important is that ESG is a very important agenda for India, and India continues to be at the forefront of this. We have a CSR policy in our company law, which very, very few countries in the world have. So ESG has always been an important agenda for India, and the government needs to give a boost to that. There are two sectors I would like to touch upon for this. One is recycled steel. Steel is 100% recycled. India will lose its edge in iron ore over the next few decades when the world market becomes a largely recycled steel market. We need to bring in policies so that India can use its large capacities to become a recycler of steel for the world. Some of the largest steel companies are present in India, and we need to use that natural advantage. Second, recycling of consumer electronics has become a big issue. Of course, there are global opportunities for that industry. However, there are environmental consequences. We seek the government's guidance on minimizing the environmental impact on that and making India a recycler to the world. With ESG and consumer demand going in that direction, India really needs to play at the forefront of this. What it will do is that it will boost employment. We have a very skilled workforce, and we need to use that to our advantage and manufacture globally. The other situation, sir, is that we have made a commitment. The Honorable Prime Minister has committed to make India carbon neutral by 2070. It is an ambitious plan, but given the enthusiasm both in India and around the world, we can definitely prepone that target. And we need to, as the President-elect, Mr. Sinha mentioned, have some targeted policies for green energy, because it does two things. A, it makes India a supplier to the world, and B, it of course helps the environment. Finally, sir, G20, we are assuming leadership next year, and we need to address two of the global issues. of course, Indonesia is talking about recover together and recover stronger. India will assume in a time when recovery hopefully will be done from COVID. However, there is a new political order in the world, and there is a Cold War 2.0 starting. Against this background, a possible agenda that the government of India can look at is reskilling for unemployment will increase based on just the automation that is picking up the world over. Large factories are being put up around the world, but the number of employees that they have are diminishing. So we need to reskill the workforce. And of course, the new jobs that clean tech will present, India needs to take the lead in that market. A, we're in dire need for clean tech in our own economy, and B, that's the global requirement. With this, I am done. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Suhail. Thank you very much. May I quickly get Mr. V.R. Sharma to share his comments? We need to give enough time to the minister to respond, and also we want to get his insights as how he sees the global perspective to it. So, speakers, may I request you to be brief? Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Honorable Minister sir. So this is my couple of past meetings I had with you through FICCI and through ASSOCHAM. When the railway ministry was under you, and we are very much grateful to you that you allowed us to mobilize our goods to port during COVID time. All the ports were open. We got a extremely best cooperation from Ministry of Railway and the railway officials that we could do the record sales through exports in the quarter April, May, June of 2020, when the entire country was passing through a very, very bad situation during COVID-19. So we are grateful to you. Sir, during last year, we have done about 15 million ton of steel exports. I think in times to come, we'll be doing about 25 million ton export of steel from India. And in the shape of capital good machinery will be another equivalent of about 2 million ton steel. So reaching to $5 trillion economy, and out of that reaching to somewhere about 500 to 600 billion dollars of exports will not be a big task now in times to come. The moment we are reaching to about 150 to 180 million ton steel production, and finally reaching to 300 million ton steel production as the target given by Ministry of Steel and Government of India, I think it would be very easy for us to reach to about 50 million ton of steel exports out of India in form of steel as well as components and capital goods machinery. So this is going to be a game changer for the entire nation. Today, the burning issue is the energy cost. Yes, energy cost has gone up substantially in last 7-8 days time. We are seeing that it is now $139 a barrel. Sir, we have a solution available in the country itself. We discussed in various platforms that how to convert our coal into gas, and gas into gasoline, gas into petrol, diesel, naphtha, olefins, gas into IGCC-based combined cycle power plants, where the efficiency is just about double than the thermal power plants. No point in transporting the coal, sir, from one location to another location in the country. I think we have to start the coal gasification units at the pit head, and based on coal gasification units, we should produce power. And transporting power, electricity is much easier and faster than transporting coal. The another point, sir, that we in Jindals, we are the only company in the world who is producing DRI through the coal gasification route. And this is the product which is likely to change the fate of the country. Rightly said by our fellow panelists that how to make country into a circular economy where we can recycle the steel, and not only recycle the steel, we can use steel not through the blast furnaces but through the electric arc furnaces. And the best way to do is DRI. So coal to gas, gas to DRI, coal to SNG, coal to hydrogen, coal to ethanol, coal to petrol, coal to diesel, coal to fertilizers. So that is the future. God has given us huge reserves of energy. Sometimes we curse ourselves that we don't have gas, we don't have oil, but we have coal. And we have till 2070 is a long time, 50 years time. It will take 2 generations to reach over there. I think the first generation can make a solid base for the next generation. Honorable Prime Minister declared about 4 years back in the United States that coal is not bad, but we have to see how to utilize coal through the most environment friendly manner, and that is gasification. I'm thankful to Government of India. I'm thankful to you. I'm thankful to Ministry of Finance, Madam Honorable Sitaramanji, who declared in this particular budget that a special budget is allocated to convert 100 million ton of coal into coal gas, and finally to fertilizers, finally to liquid fuel, and even coal to gasoline and coal to jet fuel. That is also possible. So we have everything available. Last point, sir, at X factory gate, the coal to liquid, that is coal to diesel, coal to petrol, benzene, naphtha, and also air fuel will be just 40 rupees. 40 rupees a liter will be the cost. Convert coal into petrol, diesel, naphtha, benzene, and also the air fuel. So these are my few words which I wanted to communicate to you, sir. And once again, thank you very much. During your tenure, when you were heading the Ministry of Railway, sir, steel industry got a turnaround, and GSPL is one of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sharmaji. I believe Honorable Minister has mastered the art of balancing it with other ministries, and I have had innumerable meetings, and those marathon meetings where problems are put through, he would pick up the phone, solve those problems, and most of those problems are solved post 10 p.m. because that's when he used to get free from the rest of the work. So we've had those meetings, and thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for all the help and support. Also, what Mr. Sharma was talking about. Raviji, very briefly coming to you. You could turn on your camera, please. Are you there? Ravi, can you hear me? Okay, so I'm sorry about that, Mr. Minister. We will let Ravi and the others speak after hearing from you. I think this is the right time for you to address us with your insights, with your points that you've picked up from the speakers just now, and your guidance for us as to how we take things forward as we talk about Bharat at 100. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Deepak. My good friend Shri Vineet Agarwal, President of ASSOCHAM, my dear brothers, if I can call them, Sumant and Ajay, with whom I've had a very, very long association and who will gradually take over the leadership roles in ASSOCHAM in the coming years. Dr. Hiranandani, from my very own city that never sleeps, former president of ASSOCHAM, Mr. Suhail Nathani, Mr. V.R. Sharma, other friends who are on the call, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, pleasure to be with you at the ASSOCHAM annual session. And clearly the subject you've chosen today, the Great Reset, reinforcing India's global positioning, is very central to the main theme of Bharat at 100. And if we have to envision a globally competitive future, undoubtedly, we'll have to reinforce or in fact reset our agenda of how we deal with the rest of the world. And therefore, I'm grateful to ASSOCHAM for picking up this subject, very, very appropriate timing and very relevant to our aspirations as a nation to grow into a developed country. We have to be strategic in our thinking, we have to be forward-looking, and we have to look at the aspirations of 1 billion plus people aspiring for prosperity, a better future. And that's what New India is all about. The last year, calendar 2021, was surely a defining year for India. We started our 75th independence celebrations, and along with Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, I believe ASSOCHAM also is starting its 101 years, as I can see behind Deepak. So it's a very appropriate time. You've been partners with the country all through our 75 years of independence. And ASSOCHAM and the country's history literally go hand in hand. You represent several chambers all over the country. You've been a part of the fight against different calamities, different problems before the country from time to time, COVID being the most recent challenge. And clearly, India has emerged stronger from this crisis, despite certain sectors still facing a knock, as was articulated by Ajay and Niranjan. Undoubtedly, this has been a period where we've been able to reset the agenda of the nation and truly espouse the cause of Atmanirbhar Bharat and bring that confidence, that determination in the people of India, that as we move into the Amrit Kal, the next 25 years, towards 100 years of independence, we all have a significant role to play. We all have to contribute very significantly. And we all have the courage of conviction. And we all believe in a bright future for our country. So if you were to look at the journey that is before us, I recall Prime Minister Modi's statement, where he had very appropriately put it, that there comes a time in the development journey of every country when the country redefines itself afresh and pushes forward with new resolutions. Today, that time has arrived in the development journey of India. When we talk of the Amrit Kal, our aspirations cannot be small. We have to ascend and attain new heights for India and for every citizen of India. And therefore, our goals also cannot be small. I know many of the speakers spoke about ambitious goals. But here again, the Prime Minister had said that the Amrit Kal is of 25 years. But we cannot wait for that long to achieve our goals. We don't have that luxury of time. We'll have to start now. We'll have to really move forward immediately. We don't have a moment to lose. And therefore, engagements such as today's interaction, coming up with very good suggestions, as I got today, and I've made my own notes about all that you have articulated or spoken about. And clearly, I can sense that mood in the nation to move forward very speedily, very rapidly. When Vineet speaks about a $400 billion export target, it was not my target alone. You will all recall we had extensive discussions. I could even call it negotiations with all of you, with all the export promotion councils, with sectoral industry leaders, with the missions all over India. The Prime Minister himself engaged with all the missions and industry and exporters. And this target was a collective target that the nation decided. And we have that old Shah Rukh Khan dialogue that जब किसी चीज की बड़ी इच्छा होती है या कोई चीज ठान लो, I don't know the exact wordings. I don't know who's the funny person here, but
पूरी कायनात उसको सच करने में लग जाती है.
कायनात आपके साथ जुड़ जाती है.
सच करने में लग जाती है.
So I think it's that same old story once again. And we have to repeat this again and again and again. I'm delighted to share that we are at $374 billion until February 2022, 11 months of this year. So I do believe that irrespective of the problems we have in the northern parts of Asia or Europe, We are well on track not only to achieve 400, I'm hoping closer to 410. Similarly, on services, I've already reset the target twice during the year. And despite travel, tourism, hospitality, all of them taking a knock, which Niranjan and Ajay spoke about, we had a target of about 200 something, then we made it 225, then I made it 240. But looking at the numbers as they are coming in, I won't be surprised if we cross 250. So this will be a year of huge records. Possibly for the first time, we'll be edging very close to 25% of the nation's GDP coming out of exports, both goods and services. And this positivity that we have amongst all our stakeholders, all of you on the panel today, all the members of ASSOCHAM, and the entire industry ecosystem, again, both goods and services, reflects the true strength of India. And I think this positivity is, if I may borrow a phrase from Vineet, very infectious. Actually, it's when we give positivity to each other, things turn around. When you hear Niranjan say, after many years, that real estate is on a roll, when you hear Mr. Sharma say steel is booming, I'm sure Vineet will have no cause for complaint in the logistics sector. Suman's industry has seen a, 4 times growth, 400% growth almost, overall in the last 6-7 years, with renewable energy having crossed, or non-fossil fuel-based energy crossing 150 gigawatt in India now. Well poised to achieve our 2030 target of 500 gigawatt. Solar power probably is at the lowest ever, under 3 cents, little upward of 2 rupees. We are so appropriately placed. The sentiment is right. The narrative has moved from why India to why not India. And today, the world is looking at India as a trusted partner. They know that in resilient supply chains, they would like to see India there. When it comes to service commitments, they can trust India to deliver, as they saw through the last 2 years of COVID, where we met every single commitment that India had made to any part of the world. Our service sector quickly reoriented itself, moved to work from home, set up equipment at homes, set up broadband connectivity literally overnight, but not for a day, not for an hour, not for a minute, not for a second did we let down any of our service commitments to the rest of the world. Which is why we are looked upon today as a trusted partner. And it is that trust that I would like to compliment all of you for having achieved. You are the architects of that trust, which will certainly hold India in good stead as we move forward in the years to come. We have also used this COVID period to rejig a lot of government policy in a variety of areas. FDI has been made easier, opened up much more. Defense production has got a new thrust. We are looking at attracting global manufacturing giants as companies look to more resilient and diverse supply chains. We are looking at providing an ecosystem which is more friendly. The national single window system is up and about. I do wish some of you would use it more frequently than it is being used now. We have reduced compliance burden or eliminated in many cases on nearly 27,000 compliances at the center and states. But the work is still incomplete. We are looking for your concrete suggestions and ideas what more can be done. So really, the time is right for us to leverage the edge that India provides. And when I say edge, I'm talking of economies of scale, demographic dividend, good governance, and the encouragement we are giving to innovation, quality, and efficiency. I think this edge is what is going to hold us in good stead as we go forward. Clearly, improving our quality standards is something that I'm tasked to do, and I'm working closely with industry on. I believe productivity gains will help us become more competitive in the world. And the hallmark of India of the future, whether in goods or services, will be quality and productivity or efficiency. I believe the time has come that we as a nation should accept that we are going to have one quality in the country. What we make and deliver, whether for the Indian market or for the world market, should be the same. And I'm at pains, morning to evening, at every session, every meeting, encouraging Indian industry, Indian stakeholders to start accepting quality control orders, start accepting high quality standards benchmarked to the best in the world. Take the case in point of the auto sector. There was a time when German automobiles or Japanese automobiles were the hallmark of quality. It is because India adopted world-class standards that today we have become a global player in automobiles. Those industries which accepted world standards are growing rapidly. Those which remained confined to traditional ways of working or hesitated to invest in technology, hesitated to adopt quality standards, is suffering today. And this is not the time where you can say this bottle is export quality. I think those days are gone. A bottle is a bottle, whether in the domestic market or in the export market. And that's what my aspiration or my personal commitment to this whole ecosystem is. I would like to encourage ASSOCHAM to take a leadership role in this effort. We are working very closely with industry when we are looking at our free trade agreements or comprehensive economic partnerships. I'm grateful for all the good support you gave us when we concluded the UAE CEPA in 88 days. I think it's a global benchmark. Never before in the history of the world has such a comprehensive partnership of two nations very different from each other in terms of size, in terms of products, in terms of opportunities, in terms of investment capabilities, education levels, everything. With a $60 billion two-way trade, aspiring to take it to $100 and $150 billion in the near future. And we've been able to conclude it in the spirit of friendship, spirit of oneness. I know our teams used to be talking every single day. I used to be on the phone with the minister every alternate day, sorting out issues. We had a VC every 4 days, resolving all that needed to be done. And I think that's the speed with which we'd like to work with other countries for an FTA. I have a missed call from the UK minister while I was on my earlier VC. I'm hoping to connect with her today later in the evening. From tomorrow, the third round of negotiations the third round of negotiations would start with the UK. We are really putting in our best foot forward. The Australia discussions are on again every single day, more often than not on weekends also. So this is a government, as Prime Minister says, that means business, but doesn't want to do the business, wants to leave it to you to do. You do the business, We'll be the enablers for you to do your business successfully and profitably. And for that, we are identifying focus areas where we are more competitive or we have a comparative advantage with the rest of the world. And that's where we need your guidance, your cooperation. And if we can work together on this, no power on earth can stop India from progressing, from taking a leadership role in the years to come. Budgets you have seen in the last 2 years have reinforced our commitment to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Prime Minister Modi himself is engaging with industry on different aspects of the budget through post-budget webinars, which lay emphasis on various important subjects like infrastructure, defense, the Gati Shakti, Make in India for the world, energy for sustainable growth. Different subjects are being taken forward in the spirit of making the budget successful and actionable agenda being drawn up in consultation with industry to truly get the best outcomes out of the budget. Ladies and gentlemen, through these bold reforms, we are hoping that the ecosystem will help us become a global manufacturing giant as well as a global player in international trade. I heard somebody talk of 500 or 600 billion dollars. I think Mr. Sharma mentioned export in the $5 trillion target. Sir, usse kaam nahi chalega. If we want to be a $5 trillion economy, our export of goods and services will have to be $1 trillion at least. Ideally, 25%. But at the very least, 20%. And why I say 25%? Because we need to support our import of oil. And therefore, our exports will have to really go up by leaps and bounds so that we can continue to finance our imports and strengthen the rupee in the days to come. I personally am not of the old school of thought of one section of industry or society or exporters which believe that a weak rupee or a weak currency supports export. I believe a strong currency reflects the strength of a nation and will always be good for exports. Because India, end of the day, is a net importer of goods. A strong currency supports the Indian economy. But I would leave ASSOCHAM to probably one day have a seminar or a dialogue to help me also understand the subject better. The PLI schemes were spoken about by many of the friends here. We are looking at about 6 million jobs, additional production of at least 30 lakh crores in the next 5 years. We're looking at huge investments coming into the country. And clearly, both domestic and international players are looking at India as a big opportunity to make in India for the world, to serve from India the rest of the world. And therefore, as we move towards single window clearances or simpler approvals or even reduce the burden of compliances through self-regulation or self-certification, we'll have to work as partners. If you don't use the single window, I'm not encouraged to do more to simplify your businesses. If you don't become demanders of simplification, of less compliance burden, how am I to know what is bothering you? I'm doing the best I can from my own understanding or my team's understanding. But we need you to guide us. We need people like Suhail to come up with more ideas on what more we can do to demystify the legal system, simplify it, help people get timely justice, help economic laws. ELP is an old, well-reputed Mumbai firm, but economic laws also need to be reoriented and reimagined. Just like you're talking about recycling for the world or reuse or renew, So really, we'll have to reorient our laws also. We'll have to look at all of our old traditional ways of working or doing business afresh. And therefore, when Suman talks about kind of a roadmap on renewable energy production in India, what's going to happen on import duties going forward, I think that's a very valid point. I'm happy to have an engagement with your sector separately, or I would suggest you talk to Mr. R.K. Singh and Nirmala ji. They would be drawing up the roadmap of how they want to make India Atmanirbhar on renewable energy production in India. I would also like to determine a target on goods and services for the current year. So I would urge ASSOCHAM to work with the various trade bodies under you or with you and help us on making a target, but it should not be a number in the air. I'd like you to really have detailed consultations, exporters, industry, different sectors, different countries, and come up with your own suggestions on what should be the export target for 22-23. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about a strong and vibrant economy, all of us today recognize the role of startups. I read in the paper the 10th unicorn of calendar 22 was probably in the news this morning for the latest fundraise. Yesterday, somebody met me who said they are looking at a fundraise which would take them to $1 billion. The mood in the nation is full of potential. And in the startup ecosystem, I think we are really making very rapid strides. Their success has no boundaries. And I believe we have a bright potential in the startup world that we have yet to fully capture. In fact, we have two startups that I can see right in front of me, both Sumant and Ajay, in their own way, have demonstrated the strength of entrepreneurship and starting new businesses in newer ways. So when Suman brought scale to renewable energy, when he got international money coming into renewable energy, it was probably one of the first to look at this kind of scale and this kind of foreign investment. Ajay may fine-tune the model of low-cost airlines and brought competition in the low-cost airlines with the highest levels of efficiency and service, and also opened up so many new destinations across the country. Niranjan introduced affordable housing, but also brought class into affordable housing. So Hiranandani started so far away from the center of Mumbai in Andheri, or at now it's Hiranandani itself is a township actually. But he always got a premium. He always fetched value for the quality and service he provided. So I think we have, as somebody said in the course of the conversation, that you may be small, but you make up for being small. I think Ajay said it, with quality, with class, with quality of debate, with quality of ideas, with big ticket thoughts, or really bringing in new elements which sometimes get lost in government thinking. So I would urge all of you to really work with the government in this spirit of game-changing or transformational results. And towards that end, I'd like to give you 3 points as a call to action. One, can you explore the various FTAs we already have or the free trade agreements we are negotiating and see how we can use them for its full potential? I would also urge you to take active part when we are negotiating FTAs. You can help us with ideas, help us in knowing what we should be negotiating for. Please remember, FTAs are two-way traffic. I face a lot of difficulty in explaining that again and again. You can't say my market should be closed, but I want access to the other country's market. So we'll have to be competitive, we'll have to be strong. We can't be master of everything. Maybe products we'll still need to import. So what? We'll import where somebody else has a competitive advantage, and we'll produce what we are best at and become world leaders. Why should we be at 2, 3, 4% of the world market in textiles or 6, 7% in pharma? Why should our ceramics not have 70, 80% of the world market? Why should our agri or processed agri products not go up to $100 billion, giving our farmers better income? So let's see how we can use our FTAs to the best of our ability. Second, can we, through our actions, instill a feeling of pride in Indian citizens that Indian products are at par or probably better than global products? Can we make the difference of Indian products visible? Can we brand India as a quality producer? Unless we do that, and we still live in that old age, as I said, of export quality, we'll not be able to truly be a world player. Gone are the days where imported or export quality meant better. The Made in India mark should compete with global brands in every category. And three, I would urge you to focus on the development requirements or needs or aspirations of the aspirational districts, the backward districts, the tier 2 and 3 cities. With work from home, for example, a person in Jabalpur or Ranchi or Patna can do as good a work as somebody from Bengaluru or Pune or Gurugram. So we can make these the future export hubs, along with the one district, one product program that we have launched to promote specialization in each district. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude by saying, let us make in India for the world, for which our collective effort is of utmost importance. That all of us, whether it is government, industry, our citizens, work together to reinforce India's position as a world leader. Let us work together to improve our share in global trade. Let us work together to increase our share of manufacturing in our GDP, because that will be where we can create the maximum direct and indirect jobs. Can we become amongst the top 3 nations worldwide in the global services trade? Let's make some ambitious targets on sustainability, on which Suhail spoke extensively. Maybe we can use the G20 platform to kind of have a theme, help us create a theme for our year in G20, which resonates with India, resonates with 135 crore Indians. Let us see what we can do. Why 300 million? Can we not aspire for bigger and more ambitious targets, whether it's in our airline industry, our real estate sector, renewable energy, or steel industry? Let every industry look at really becoming global in size and scale and quality. As they say, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I invite all of you to help us craft a beautiful future for India. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. It was indeed a pleasure to listen to you. May I now request Sumanji to formally close the session. Thank you so much, Sumanji.
Yeah, thank you so much, Deepak. And thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for giving us, as always, a very inspiring session. You covered a lot of ground in your speech. You spoke about the aspirations of the country, the task at hand for the government, the way you're going about working, and what you specifically expect from industry. And I think that in some ways reflects the way this government works. It sets the big aspiration And then it sets about really, getting its hands into the problem and then really beginning to work collaboratively across within the government, but also with industry. And I think this is one of the most remarkable differences that we've seen in this government, is that it reaches out to all of us in the industry and make sure that the work is as collaborative and takes as many inputs from all of us as possible. And that gives all of us a much deeper sense of participation as well, that we have a say also in what is happening. And that is remarkable, because I think it gets a new energy into the task, because as you rightly said, these are not things that can be delivered by any one person. These are collective targets, and we all have to do this job collectively. Let me also say that you've given us 3 specific points to look at, which we will work on. You also told us to look at the whole issue of currency, which also we should work on. And let me also assure you once again that ASSOCHAM, as Ajay pointed out earlier, while it is the smallest among the 3 associations, we will also work the hardest to make sure that we are really seen as trusted and capable partners by the government. And we assure you of our absolute best support in this effort going forward. And please rest assured that we shall give our best to make sure that we work closely with you on all of these targets, because these targets are, as you said earlier, are our collective targets. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this session, and look forward to engaging with you again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining this evening.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, bye.